Welcome to The Watcher. I'm your cult leader, Tom Bott, and I just watched episode 6, the finale of Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Well, I guess spoilers. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but of course, at the very end of the show, they retroactively sort of give us the title Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So, yeah, the cat's out of the bag, or the cap is out of the bag there. This is all what we expected, of course, the show to be, and we're at that natural endpoint. What did I think of that endpoint? Thought it was okay. The finale was pretty good overall. It had moments where I just wasn't amazed. I don't think it was an excellent episode of television by any means, but it set up some intriguing stuff for the future. Had some good moments, and that's sort of how I would kind of sum up this show overall. It was a show with great moments, but not a great show. I thought it was good. It was, I had a bit more depth than what I expected, but I didn't really think it was excellent. I think I probably preferred WandaVision, even though I thought WandaVision had a bit of a wobbly towards the end. Anyway, let's get into a bit more detail. Those are my thoughts, but naturally, we need to kick off the show, and they did not hesitate in kicking off the show by giving us a new look at, Captain America in his new outfit. That's right, Sam Wilson, the Falcon, is the new Captain America, and they've sort of blended his costume as we all had suspected. And that was what came from Wakanda. That was kind of what we called last week. Pretty much everyone and the dogs on the street knew it. And that was the case. And it's a gorgeous looking costume overall. It's really accurate to the comic books. I still think it's kind of weird that his head is just bare. I just kind of found that weird. And then his little ears are sticking out. I just find that weird. I don't know why. It just seems a little strange looking in that, but that's a design thing. It's accurate to the comics, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like they have a really elaborate headpiece to just hold his goggles. But anyway, I think it is a pretty gorgeous costume overall, and I'm okay with this being the Captain America outfit for Sam Wilson. It just totally works, in my opinion. But that was essentially the start of the show, although we did also get reveal that Sharon Carter is in New York. She had one of those Winter Soldier face things. Remember those? Probably should get a lot more use out of those. They're pretty handy. But anyway, that's what we kicked off. We're in New York. The GRC is locked down because of the Flag Smashers. Sharon Carter is in New York to help Bucky and Sam. And of course, Sam is decked out in his new Captain America ensemble. Apparently not a fan of fashion is Batroc the Leaper, which you should probably guess from all the purple and yellow. And because of that, he fights Sam. And it was a decent fight. It was kind of... there was one moment that I thought was hilarious, and I don't know why. Like, they're having this big fight, and you're like, oh, Sam's going to use the shield. And then, like, it's just so easily defeated. Batroc just throws a chair. Hits the shield, and that's it. I'm like, wow. If only all the MCU villains had chairs to hand. But that was kind of funny. It kind of made me think like, well, I guess the shield isn't what identifies this new Captain America. And that's pretty cool too. Elsewhere, Carly tries to convince Bucky to join her. This felt like a really unnecessary beat, a very cliched beat. It kind of felt like we've already, traveled over that bridge at this point. So that's kind of one of the things like that I thought let the finale down. At some points it was a little cliched. And that was one of the things. Basically, she was just distracting him so the Flag Smashers could lock a load of politicians into a van and keep them hostage. One thing that I did like was that they kind of showed a couple of times in the episode that the Flag Smashers had sort of infiltrated the police and other branches of the place. And obviously, you could make a comparison to Hydra in the Marvel Universe, but I think it just did a good job of kind of, referencing current politics and that kind of thing, without getting into too much detail and being too political. The idea that the people around you might have some sort of big belief. And what I thought was interesting towards the end of the show, without jumping the gun, is that they kind of said, like, look, even though we do have different beliefs, we should listen to each other, basically. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, one thing that we should mention is this Flag Smasher who had infiltrated this stuff, presumably he's a super soldier. Sharon just had a weapon. I can't even remember. It was some sort of gas. Was it mercury gas? Mercury vapor, I think it was. That basically was acid that killed the guy. I was like, well, Wow, that was a bit intense, and no one even really addressed it. It was like, what use? Oh, mercury vapor. Okay, like, hey, Captain America. She just used like a gas, which is probably banned in war. And you're okay with that? Not a great first day in the office there, Sam Wilson, Captain America. But anyway, um, I mean, it's of course setting up the obvious reveal that I called as soon as she came back. I think, of course, I might as well say it now because it's fairly obvious later on. Sharon Carter is the power broker. As for what that means later on, I'll get into it. But yeah, I mean, she seemed pretty villainous doing this. It just kind of seemed like overkill to this poor guy. I assume he was a super soldier. If he wasn't, it was just like, why didn't you just shoot him? But oh well, you could have just shot him if he was a super soldier. So I don't know. That seems like a bit unnecessary. But sure, I don't know. Is that for merchandising? Are they going to sell tiny mercury vapor grenades to kids? Probably not. Anyway, we have this kind of big aerial dogfight scene. What I thought was really cool about this episode, and it was necessary that they kind of did a good job of establishing how Sam is a different version of Captain America than Steve Rogers, and not just like obviously his history and his skin color and his relationship with the world around him. He gives an excellent speech later on that we'll get to. Highlights all that, but I just meant in terms of his equipment and the way he handles things. Obviously, he's got wings; he can fly. He has red wing, and he also has goggles that kind of help it. So this is interesting, and it's also that, of course, you're going to need because he's not a super soldier like Steve was. And they did some cool things with that. So, of course, something that we wouldn't have seen the regular Steve Rogers do is get in a dogfight with a helicopter. Helicopter has more hostages on it. Red Wing runs ahead, scans all the passengers. One of them has flight experience. Sam is like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to need you to take over this helicopter when I blow this guy out of the helicopter. So he just smashes through this guy with the shield into the water, and the person grabs a stick and they fly off, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Red Wing is alive. Wakanda did an excellent job of giving him this suit, by the way. It did make me kind of go like, oh, they knew about all these things. They really teched him out. And then I was like, are they like, could they be spying on him? That would be very un-Wakandian. But or maybe not, I don't know. But I just find it kind of funny. And of course, there's also a sort of symbolic importance of the Captain America outfit coming from somewhere with African roots like Wakanda. So that's cool. That's all very good. In the middle of all this, Bucky is sort of trying to save politicians. He's chasing Carly first. Then Carly does what, of course, every supervillain does, and is like, "Oh, get him." Well, not every supervillain. So not every superhero would care, depending on the superhero universe, without slamming DC. Although I guess I just did. They're basically like, hey, if you put these people in danger, he's gonna have to save them, and we can get away. So she lights the van on fire. Bucky has no choice but to save him. He manages to rip the people free, but Carly is not off the hook because we get the return, long awaited. I mean, it's only been a week, so I guess not. But the long suspected return of John Walker. Now, I gotta say, first of all, I want to say this. I don't think I've said this so far, but Wyatt Russell deserves a lot of credit. He's been really good in this role, and I think he just didn't really get the credit he deserved because, he's stepping into a role that a lot of people aren't going to like him in. But I think that he did a good job of kind of giving some degree of likability and at least some degree of morality in his performance, even though he was often wrong and the bad guy. And I think they did a great job with that character here of giving them that kind of complex morality, because obviously he did beat a guy to death with the shield, but he's also not fully a bad guy, as we see here. So he goes after Carly. Of course, Carly's like, I didn't mean to kill your friend. And I also want to say, like, the shield is getting jobbed out in this episode. I mean, first Captain America's actual shield gets jobbed out to someone throwing a chair at it. Here, I mean, John Walker's shitty shield. We knew that wasn't going to be anything. He throws it. She literally kicks it out of the air. Fucking Captain America, this guy. That's what I'm going to call him. I was going to call him Captain America, but he gets a new name later on, so I guess I won't need it anymore. I also will say that I was kind of wondering if he melted down his medals. I kind of thought that would have been cooler. He just has the medals stuck to the inside of his shield, which is fine. I kind of thought it would have been cooler if he melted down his medals. It would have given it a bit more maybe significance, but But I don't know. It was still pretty decent. I did think this whole like sequence, because we basically got right into the action at the start, and then it kind of slows down at the end, which is interesting because sometimes finales kind of leave the big moments towards the end, but here it was kind of reversed. I don't know about the pacing of the show in general. I think it has been a little bit inconsistent at times, and maybe a little bit in need of a trim here and there. But anyway, it just felt like a big budget action movie. I thought it was really good. In that regard, the choreography was good. The effects were cool. All the dogfight stuff looked really good. It wasn't like groundbreaking. I'd be honest, if I saw this in an MCU movie, I'd want more. But for a TV show, it was pretty good. And I know we should probably not compare it to a TV show. We should probably compare it to a movie. But there has been big budget movie moments in this series, especially thinking back to the opening and that fight on the vans in, I think it was the third or second episode, I think. So yeah, Carly fights Walker and manages to subdue him, and of course she goes back to her old bag of tricks. Why don't you put the people in danger and they'll have to save them? And you're thinking, oh, so this means Bucky is going to have to try to save them. Which Bucky is like looking up at this van, and I'm like, there's no way he's just going to like stop that van with his one metal arm. He'd be crushed. But wouldn't you know it, Bucky isn't the hero to save the day here. There's a great moment here whereby John Walker has an option to go after Carly or save the van, and he decides to save the van. So there you go. I thought they did a good job with this character of making him like these kind of complex shades of grey. Not just like he's a good guy or he's a bad guy. He's somewhere in the middle. I don't know if we can go full anti-hero with him yet, but he's certainly not a total villain. I mean, he'd be a great guy if he, didn't beat the shit out of that guy with a shield. But it's a shame he did that, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, that was kind of the defining moment for him. But John Walker gets attacked as he's doing this, and someone has to save the van, and it's Sam. It's our new Captain America. I don't know if the physics here made any sense, but I might as well just give it a miss. I might not overanalyze it. It is a comic book TV show after all. He basically uses his hands and the jetpack to push it up, but I'm kind of thinking like, I don't know, seems like there's a lot of force there from both sides. It feels like his arms would buckle, but anyway, he managed to save the van. That was kind of the end of the big action beats in the episode. He saves the van. He kind of gets his hero moment where the crowd are surrounding him, clapping on, cheering him, and we kind of get a callback to one of the earlier episodes where a man says, "That's the Black Falcon," and a guy goes, "No, that's Captain America." So there you go. It's really hard to not refer to him as Falcon. I keep automatically doing it, but I've had to train my brain over the last 5 episodes. So yeah, there we go. That's sort of not the official moment of him being Captain America, but from here we sort of go into a smaller scale, but higher stakes for the episode. So Carly does a runner. She kind of ends up in the kind of, I don't know, tunnels under New York somewhat. Walker is now fighting alongside them as well. It's Walker, Sam, and Bucky, and they're basically trying to hunt down Carly before she gets away. And in that moment, the first person to get to Carly, oh my god, my phone. It's the power broker. Well, it is the power broker. It is Sharon Carter. She gets to Carly first, and from there, we get a bit of a standoff. I mean, we all kind of, I think, like, as much as I was like, hey, I predicted the power broker, I think everyone kind of saw the winds of change at work there. Batroc comes in, is like, you have to pay me 4 times what you paid me for all this, yada yada yada. We have a little bit of a standoff that ends very briefly when Sharon shoots Batroc the Leaper, Carly shoots Sharon, and Sharon is wounded on the floor. And at that moment, Sam comes in, and it was pretty cool here. Sam does not really fight back. He just defends himself. He keeps getting attacked, and she gets really frustrated. And it feels like there's a moment where it's going to like have this kind of ideological change. And she was earlier on basically like, I can't believe you fell for this bullshit. Like, you know how pointless all this is, blah blah blah. And then we have the death of Carly. Carly dies, and this was such a cliched moment again that I was kind of like, kind of took some of the any of the heft in this scene out of it for me. Like, as soon as I saw the way the shot was set up, I think we all knew, like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And it was that. It was like Carly aiming the gun at Sam. And Sam, is now shieldless, so she has him dead to rights. And she's about to shoot him. She was clearly going to shoot him. And in that moment, you hear a gunshot. And oh, wait a minute, Carly's gun didn't fire. Oh my God, it was Sharon Carter. You forgot about her. No, we didn't. Oh, but yeah, when you thought that Carly shot, no, we didn't. Yeah, Carly's dead. So yeah, you kind of went overboard with your acidy weapon there, Sharon. You could have just shot the guy. Jesus. Anyway, Carly is dead, leaving to a kind of a cool shot. Look, no one is going to give this show any awards for subtlety, okay? But we do have a very nice shot with Sam kind of coming down like an angel. He comes down very, very gracefully, probably more so than we've ever seen him do in the suit. And he kind of drops her, well, he doesn't drop her dead body, but he kind of puts it onto a stretcher. And that's a picture wrap on Carly. So at this point, if you're trying to keep the score, the people who knew Sharon Carter was the power broker was Batroc, who is now dead, and Carly, who is also now dead. So no one knows out of our main characters that Sharon Carter is the power broker. Very, very interesting. Dun, dun, dun. We have a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing situation here. So Sam comes down, and this is probably the best moments in the whole episode. And again, it's the character moments. And this is kind of the problem for me, because the show really worked best in its character moments, and it didn't feel like there was always that many of them. But that was kind of where it excelled. And you could say it was a bit heavy-handed. As said in the past, it has been at times, but to me, this really worked. And immediately Sam comes down and he's barraged of, who made you Captain America? Are you Captain Falcon? And he kind of comes down and starts talking to the, what is it, GDR guys? The GDPR guys? The GRC guys. The senators and all this. And he's like, stop calling them terrorists, or not just terrorists. You're waiting on borders with guns as well. How are you not terrorists? And this is what I like. This is like a more realized Captain America in some ways than Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers kind of starts to question things in not Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Captain America Winter Soldier. Yeah, this is where the confusion starts. Captain America Winter Soldier 2014. Not and. Forget the and. I'm on about the 2014 movie from the Russo brothers. He was kind of starting to question surveillance and security and that kind of thing. And here we have a character who has always been that, and he's very much like that as well, because of his experiences as an African American. And he goes into that in this speech, which I just thought was amazing. This is the sort of thing where you're like, you could probably submit this for Emmy consideration if you want to, Anthony Mackie. And you might have a good chance. Who knows? Because it was really well done, really well delivered. Maybe it went on a bit long. Maybe it was a bit heavy-handed. I thought it worked overall. And I think it was something that we needed for this Captain America. Although it did kind of remind me of like that Poochie speech, that Homer tries to give.
I know there's a lot of people who don't like me and wish I would go away. And I think we got off on the wrong foot.
But of course, this had a bit more dramatic heft and truth to it. So he kind of goes on and on about how for the first time ever, we have a common struggle. And he also, by the way, this is all being broadcasted on the TV, him giving this speech. He says, I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes. What don't I understand here? And he says, every time I pick this thing up, I know there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it. You hear that, internet? Because I've already seen you dumping on the fact that, oh, woke Disney made a new Captain America. Yeah, well, the other Captain America's on the moon, apparently. Which seems to be the story that they're going with. I don't know where that leads or what that means, but sure, why not? Yeah, great speech. As I said, they've given Anthony Mackie, this character of Sam Wilson, some great speeches throughout the whole show, and this is the one that the character needed at this time, and it was fantastic. I don't know what else to say about it. And of course, he kind of basically says, like, you people are making the decisions for people who don't have a voice themselves. If you keep doing this, there's going to be another Carly. Because Carly had a point. That's why she was able to get such a following, which I just loved. And, of course, while all this is happening, Bucky is off to the side, listening. And then, of course, when Sam comes, he's like, I wasn't really listening. Those two boys of mine. But, of course, at the very end, they kind of walk away, and he says, "Nice job, Cap," which was just such a nice touch. And then he kind of gives him a pat on the back. Or else he was trying to touch the shield. He's like, "I want that shield, bitch. We're not over. Season 2." I don't know. Or else he's like, "The shield is my family. That's why I'm touching it." Oh, that came out wrong. I meant like a loving hug, like an affectionate touch, not like a weird one. No. Oh gosh, this might all be cut out. Yeah. We kind of get this sort of wrap up to the Flag Smashers. Then the Flag Smashers are being sent to the RAF. However, while doing this, the cop escorts them and says basically, one world, one people, which is the name of the episode and also the Flag Smashers motto. But while this is going on, their vehicle is blown up by none other than Zemo's butler, who I admit I didn't recognize. I was like, that's a very strange choice to have the man be so old who's blowing it up. But then I was like, oh, right, okay. And we see Zemo sitting in the raft, hearing this happen on the radio. And that's it. That's all that's the only part Zemo is in this episode. Kind of a shame, because I like Zemo a lot. But there we get our kind of wrap up beyond that. And we got a bit more of our character that was introduced last week, which was Valentina Allegra, of course, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So I guess we should talk about where this went, because of course we all knew John Walker was a US agent, and here they gave him that moniker. They gave him the suit, which is basically the same thing except it's black now. She's basically saying, "Hey, look like Zemo, is doing pretty good. He killed those Flag Smashers, boy. Woo!" And then we get the most ham-fisted line I've ever heard in Marvel. And it's kind of funny because I made a joke, and I've made a joke before. I would basically, at the last episode of every Marvel show, it's like, put on this suit, you better start fighting. And we got that twice here. We got a US agent as well. But she's basically like, "Hey, you better keep that suit handy, because when we need you, we don't need Captain America, we need a US agent." And you're like, okay. Right. I'll get into my speculation on where that could lead later on. So that's kind of our closure on John Walker. Again, I thought he was a fantastic character. Really interested to see more of him, and curious as to where he will show up again. For Bucky, his closure comes kind of full circle. Back in episode 1, he had his friend, I think it was Nakazawa, the man his son he killed, and he was kind of hanging around with. And we see that he returns to Nakazawa here and tells him, "Your son was murdered by the Winter Soldier, and the Winter Soldier is me." They both break down crying. This was an excellent scene. I mean, I love these kind of emotional moments and these character moments. I'm glad they managed to fit them in the finale here, because for me, it's what made it a lot more interesting. If it had just been all these action beats and teases for the future, I wouldn't have been interested. But I'm glad to see we got some kind of resolution to the character arcs of the show. And that was a really great moment. And by the end of that, we see his therapist on the therapist's couch. We have Bucky's notepad of his list of names, his "My name is Earl" list of names that he has to do right by, and it's all crossed out. So he's basically moved on and has closure. And wouldn't you know it, based on all that, he's also found family in Sam's family. They have a good old barbecue with some hot dogs, because America, right? It was just nice to see. It was nice to see Sebastian Stan play this character different, but it was also nice to see Bucky get some closure and some kind of happy moments. He's playing with the kids. He's smiling. He's been cake. It's like, this is a different character, and they're much more affectionate to each other as well. They're kind of, putting their arms around each other. They're friends now. And as much as what's the word I'm looking for? I said demographic. That's not what I meant. Dynamic. There we go. God, it's been a long day, folks. That dynamic is interesting, but of course it's kind of run its course. Well, it really has been a long day. And yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes from here, but I'm sure again they'll have that kind of, as you do with your friends, you kind of mess around with them and take the piss. And I'm sure we'll see a bit more of that in the future. And that was where we left that. But the probably most emotional moment actually came before that. Sam kind of comes back to Isaiah, who's obviously seen his speech, and he's like, "Look, you saw my speech and all that stuff," and he goes, "Hey, you're pretty good. I'm willing to admit you're special." He's like, "You're not Malcolm, and you're not Martin, but and you're not Nelson Mandela, but you're pretty good," which is just kind of fun. But the real emotional payoff here, and I'll be honest, it nearly got me. I nearly choked up on it. Was the fact that he says to Isaiah and Eli Bradley, by the way, who, as we mentioned before, is possibly going to become Patriot, but there was obviously no hint here, and I'm glad there wasn't. It would have been really, really forced and unnecessary, more forced than U.S. agent, certainly. We also didn't get Torres becoming the Falcon, which was a possibility. We did see him very briefly in the episode, and again, it's glad. It's something I don't think they need to rush, and it's also possibly something that we might talk about where they can go from here. But they bring the two Bradleys to the Captain America Museum, which I guess is just constantly on, because it seems to be in every movie for a long time now. And as he's walking through, they see a statue of Elijah Bradley and a kind of or Isaiah Bradley, I should say. They see a statue and a kind of a monument, basically saying Isaiah Bradley was a super soldier, along with many others who gave their lives and without their consent were experimented on. He is a forgotten American hero, and he gives Sam a big hug. That it was a very emotional moment. I thought it was very, very fitting. And it was one of the highlights of the episode for me. I love that character of Isaiah Bradley. I don't think we're going to see him again. Although, I guess we could, because we presume we might get some form of Patriot from Eli Bradley at some point. But either way, I thought that actor gave a fantastic performance. And that was a very interesting character and really great inclusion into the show. And yeah, as I mentioned, I already went over the old family barbecue. My prediction for the ending was they were going to have beers in the boat. They had beers near the boat, so I'm close enough. And yeah, then of course, as I mentioned, the title of the show is revealed to be Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Again, what does that mean if they do more seasons? Don't call it that. It'll be very confusing, as I've just demonstrated unintentionally earlier. But we get a post-credit scene, which features Sharon Carter, dun dun dun, or the Power Broker, which again, as I said, I called. A lot of people predicted. This deserves some kudos. It's a ballsier move than I expected out of Marvel. Is it a bit rushed and forced? Possibly. I mean, it all happens off screen basically. Is it really Sharon Carter? Ooh, let's get into that theory in a minute. So yeah, Sharon Carter gets her apology and a pardon. They even kind of mention, Peggy Carter in passing. Kind of, they're like, your family has given a great service in general. With Peggy Carter, if this is really Sharon Carter, is spinning in her grave, and she says, like, we can give you an opening in your old division, and she accepts. And then at the very end, she's walking off, and she says onto the phone, start setting up buyers. The super soldier stuff might be off the program, but I've just got access to government secrets and weapons from the inside. Dun dun dun! Oh my god! And that is how Falcon and the Winter Soldier ends. Well, folks, let's talk about the show on the whole. Let's talk about where we can go from here, etc. So, first thing I want to say, what did I make of the show? Overall, I thought it was pretty good. I think it, I think it might have been better as a binge, personally. Week to week, I think there was moments where it dragged. I think you could probably have even cut it down into something shorter, maybe. It's strange. It's that weird dichotomy where I'm like, parts of it I would love to have seen more of, parts of it I could have done to see less of. Some of the side characters I would like to have seen more of. I think they had a real problem here where they're just like, introduce this side character. They gave him a load of backstory and then they were like gone from the show until they needed him. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. Now, the other thing we should talk about is, I think it was just this week, they submitted this and WandaVision for the Emmys. And they submitted WandaVision as a limited series and this for a drama series. Now, you could not look into this at all and say, hey, well, they just want to get both nominated and not compete against each other. But in theory, that means there could be another season of this. I would be interested in another season. Mainly because I'm not sure where these characters pop up in the main MCU for a while. I don't know what the story would be. Or would entirely be necessary. Again, there's a lot of characters here that we could follow up on. And you could follow up on them here. But what about these characters? Let's start with John Walker. I've been pushing Thunderbolts for a long time. It could work. He could be the leader of the Thunderbolts. Of course, Zemo is in the raft, along with a few other people. Who knows? But he could pop up somewhere. I'm assuming he's not going to go to the main movies just yet. I assume he's going to be kind of a Disney Plus character, because they sort of have their own universe here on Disney Plus, and of course characters are going to cross over, and that's a character that could, but I don't know if they're going to be like a major character in the movies going forward. So I don't know. Again, Thunderbolts is where I'm going to hedge my bets, but I've said that multiple times before and been wrong. As for Sharon Carter, I want to get into a possible theory. I was saying that this might be a bit rushed, and I said, hey, is this Sharon Carter? Well, it could be a Skrull. Maybe. We don't know, although that would be possibly cheap. I mean, if this is the real Sharon Carter, you know, technically, like, as much as she was using the super soldier stuff, she basically helped them kill the person that makes the super soldier serum. So that doesn't make any sense, really. And I'm sure they can write their way out of it, being like, haha, well, I didn't want to blow my cover, haha. But, you know, it could be bad writing. Either way. And where does she pop up? Well, look, the obvious answer again is Secret Invasion. It really looks like Secret Invasion is going to be a big one, as it should be. But they've announced casting for this week. Olivia Colman could be joining it. Emilia Clarke possibly joining it. This seems like it's going to be a big deal. It could be out just next year, which is insane. But that should be a big event. And seemingly it's going to be. I would imagine she will pop up there just because she is now presumably a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. or S.W.O.R.D. or whatever that turns out to be. But the ending points more to Armor Wars, which is one we don't know a lot about. But basically, it's the plot of it is that Tony Stark's suit technology ends up in the hands of other people, and certainly the ending of this will point to that. So she's going to pop up a couple of times, I think. Possibly Secret Invasion. Could definitely see Armor Wars as another possibility. Aside from that, I mean, Valentina Allegra, it looks like she could be setting up a team. It seems kind of like that. That's again make me lead to Thunderbolts. Other than that, I mean, like, how else would John Walker and that kind of fit in? Like, presumably she's recruiting characters. Like, otherwise it's just like, hey, she's sending John Walker on missions. Like, who cares? That's not going to get its own show, you know. But yeah, that is the show. That is my thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was my predictions for the future. Well, that is also The Watcher. But not for good. I've been doing this now since WandaVision began, I think mid-January. Haven't missed a week. Been here every week breaking something down, putting something out. I'm going to take a week off. I feel I've earned it. So the question then is, next Marvel show isn't coming until Loki in June. So I have all of May off, you might say. Well, I'm going to do something. I mean, if there's nothing to watch, there's certainly stuff to rewatch. So I'm taking the week off, but starting on the first week of May, first Friday in May, the 7th of May, I'll be rewatching something fantastic. And you should definitely come back and check it out. Next week, I might drop a teaser for it here on the YouTube channel. So do not miss it. But anyway, that's where we're leaving it. And if you're not interested in rewatching, that's fine. But make sure you come back for Loki in June. Either way, come back at some point. Please do. I hope you enjoyed these. Let me know what you think of the finale. What do you think of the show as a whole? And where do you think these characters are going to pop up next? Either way, thank you for watching this. Please like and subscribe. Because remember, I'll be watching. Take care.